Oh, what's going on, guys? G Funky Boxing. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell. Tonight, we've got a good show here. Real quick show. We're going to do a quick 60-minute show for you guys. We're going to talk about Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. Do we even care anymore with all the drama and the negotiations? We got an interesting fight this weekend. Ray Vargas versus Oshaki Foster. I think it's going to be a pretty decent matchup, man. And then we're also going to preview the Thompson Boxing card, which will be live tomorrow night, 8 p.m. here on YouTube. And I'm being joined by a friend of ours, Lukey from Inside the Ropes Boxing. What's going on, Luke?
A lot of things happening all at once on my computer, but it's always a pleasure to spend some time with you, G Funky.
I appreciate that, man. Guys, this is the link to Luke's channel. Make sure you check him out, man. He does tremendous work. Puts in a lot of time, a lot of hours, goes to gyms, talks with trainers, fighters. A really good channel, man. Check him out, guys. And also, my man's got a book out too. Check it out. My man's got a book out. A lot of good information in here. So make sure you check him out. It's on Amazon, right, Luke?
Yeah, the only on Amazon. We did a distribution deal with them, and whenever I get bored, I'm gonna release the second book. So just one day when I'm bored, I'll drop it.
There we go. I like that, man. So we got Boxing Vitals here early, and also my man Round One, 2 really good subscribers there. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to hit the
Let
like
me
button
say
again if
something
you're
to
not
Boxing
subscribed.
Vitals.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
Boxing Vitals, if you don't come up to me and say hello in Fresno, we got problems, man.
Ooh,
That's it. Because
shit.
Boxing Vitals always supports. He always shows loves. And one time he's such a nice guy. He said, "Oh, I didn't want to bother you while you're working." And it's like, come on, like I'm in public places to interact with people. I'm not in here to be away from people. So I just want Boxing Vitals to know when I'm in Fresno, please come up and let me know who you are.
Yeah, there you go. Even if you got to tell Luke this.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
All right, just go up and talk to him. All right. We also got Lisa Bells in the chat, great supporter of the channel. Joe Allen Boxing as well. Appreciate all you guys for being here. Again, there's a link to Lukey's channel in the chat. If you're not subscribed to his channel, subscribe to his channel. Maybe I don't know why I don't have the names. Give me a second here. I'm slipping, man. I'm slipping, Luke. But that's what happens, man, when you're busy with other things. But there we go. Now the names are up. So yeah, you guys subscribe to his channel. Really good stuff. And he says he will definitely see you there, Luke. So that's good stuff, man. Appreciate that. So let's knock this out real quickly, man. Thompson Boxing is back tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Pacific. If you guys aren't subscribed to their channel, subscribe. You're gonna get some free fights tomorrow night. Okay. Make sure that you check out the show. They got some young fighters. There's a heavyweight that's going to be opening up the card. I believe his name is Oscar Torres, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of these guys I'm not familiar with that are on the undercard. I am familiar with the guys in the co-feature and the main event. Yes, Oscar Torres is his name. Also, Juan Sanchez, Elias Diaz, Anthony Saldivar. And we got, again, the main event and the co is what we're going to talk about here tonight. So let's start off with Nelson Oliva, man. He's going to be taking on, what's his name? Wayne. Geez, I can't pronounce his last name. I'm sure you know how to say it, Luke. But 2 young fighters going at it. I believe Oliva is 5-0 with 5 KOs, while his opponent is 2-0. So both of these guys very young, and they're going to be on a pretty big stage at this point of their career. On a Thompson card. And Luke, I hope you're not frozen. Are you frozen? I think we're getting some. Yeah, you're a little in and out right now, Luke. There we go. What's going on, Mark Nash in the chat? So yeah, a pretty decent matchup, man. I've been watching Oliva his last 3 fights I've seen. and he's been making quick work of his opponents, you know. Um, but this guy here, from what I've seen, there's not a lot of footage on this guy, but I did see him fight on a fight here on YouTube. I did find something of him. Seems like a pretty tough guy, you know, and I think he's gonna bring it. That's what he looks like. That's what at least looks like to me. What are your thoughts on Oliva's opponent, Lukey?
So I think his name is Wayne Bourdreau. That sounds real French.
Yeah.
He has a father who boxed, and he made it to the Olympic trials. I want to say he got stopped by Marquez Valle, who's with Pro Box TV. And basically, like, Wayne has more pedigree, and Nelson's kind of a guy who's learning on the job, really strong physical guy. And I think this is the type of fight where if Thompson is going to sign a fighter like Nelson, who probably doesn't have the backing or the pedigree, you have to beat a fighter like this. But I think this is a very, very competitive, kind of even fight.
I agree, man. Looking at both guys and the way that they fight, and I also think it's going to be a really entertaining fight. I think both these guys are going to meet in the center of the ring, and I think somebody's going to go down. I do not anticipate this thing going the distance, man, at all. Should be a fun fight. And again, guys, if you're not subscribed to Thompson Boxing, make sure you subscribe to them here on YouTube. Free fights on a Friday night. I mean, you can't beat that, guys. All right, you just can't. Yeah, Oliva, I believe he's trained by Henry Ramirez, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think he's trained by Henry. And yeah, I've been seeing him the last 3 fights. And again, he likes to get in there, make quick work of his opponents. Still a little green, in my opinion. But we'll find out, man. Like you said, I think it's going to be competitive. I definitely agree with you on that, Luke. So let's go to the main event: George Acosta versus Marlon Sims. Acosta has been out of the ring for a little bit. He was scheduled to fight, I believe it was early fall of last year. The fight was all set. Both fighters had weighed in, and then literally that same day, something came back with a medical, and the fight had to be scrapped from the card. But for him, some good news as well. That card, he came out, they interviewed him, and then he proposed to his girlfriend. So the man is engaged now. So congratulations to George on that. And yes, indeed, Boxing Mouse says Thompson Boxing is always fun. They do a great job. Yeah, they do a really good job. I love the production that they have. What's going on to Knockout 305 in the chat? Thanks for joining us. But this is an interesting matchup, man. Acosta is he's kind of a rangy type dude for that weight. But this guy's fighting is 5'10", I believe, or 5'11", really big for this weight class. And he's got the height and reach on Acosta. LUU is what he goes by. And he's got a channel as well here on YouTube. Really, really good channel. Real informative on training, on nutrition. And he also has workout videos and stuff. So if you guys are interested in anything like that, go check him out. But Luke, give us your thoughts on the main event, man. What do you think is going to happen there?
I think it's an interesting fight. Acosta's basically fought once a year for the past 2 years, but his win a couple of years ago against Gadwin Sosa, first time he had ever been to Florida, first time he had been really on the B side in a while. And that was I think, a fight for him that would have defined whether he kept going in boxing. If he lost that fight, he probably doesn't keep going as a pro athlete. Marlon Sims only lost is to Dominique Dimes, and Dominique Dimes Crowder is a really, really good fighter, really tough fighter. I think that's a potential world challenger type fighter. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that was a weight class below he was fighting even. Let me do that half-baked research right now. But I want to say Dominique Dimes fights at like 122. So Marlon Sims has been a guy that he's kind of one of these guys that floats around the club scene. But if he can pick up a good win, he's definitely going to be there. Let me kill in time to kind of say this, but let's see what weight Marlon Sims was at. I mean, Marlon Sims has floated between 135 to 126. He lost to Dominique Dimes at 125. I think Acosta's fought as high as 135, but I think he'd be the first to tell you he's probably a natural 30-pounder.
Yeah.
Pretty good fight, you know. I think it's pretty interesting fight.
I do too, man. It's gonna be a challenge for Acosta because he's, again, the times that I've seen him in there, he's usually the taller guy with the much with the reach advantage as well. Um, but this fight here again, he's gonna make a guy who's got a couple inches of height, and his Sims' reach isn't on box rec, but he definitely looks like he's got the reach advantage on George. So it's gonna be an interesting matchup, and plus he's a southpaw as well, Sims. So but I mean, George has fought southpaws. His last fight, he fought Canalito Olivar, and that was a good fight. But George did get hurt in that fight. He did get clipped with some left hands in there. You guys know southpaws can be very tricky if you don't know how to game plan and strategize for them. But he did end up getting the win there in a good performance, I feel. And his opponent, the guy he beat, Canalito, he actually fought Hector Luis Garcia, if that's worth anything for you guys, on a PBC card before. But it should be an interesting fight, man. I feel like the co-feature and the main event on this Thompson card are going to be really, really good. So, guys, I'm going to be there live in the chat. That's 8 p.m. Pacific tomorrow night on Thompson Boxing's boxing channel here on YouTube. Make sure you join me, man. And Luke and I, we actually met in person at a Thompson Boxing card in November last year on a cold, windy night in Sacramento. But we went out there and we hung out, talked to some fighters, and it was a good time. So make sure you guys check out Thompson tomorrow night. Anything you want to add to the card, Luke? Or are you ready to move on to the next topic?
I mean, I think these are two fights where I wouldn't be shocked if it was 1 or 2 rounds decides the fight, or if both fighters get knocked down in fights. These are fights that if I were to tell you what type of fight this is, I'd call both of these fights prove it fights. Both of these fighters that are Thompson fighters still have to prove something being put in with this caliber of opponent, in my opinion.
Absolutely, great point, man. Guys, also in the chat, there's a poll there. We're gonna talk about Ray Vargas versus Oshaki Foster tomorrow night on the Showtime card. There's a poll in the chat for that fight. Let us know who you think is going to win. Vote for Vargas or Oshaki Foster in the chat. Also, the pinned message in the chat is the phone number. If anybody would like to call in, voice their opinion on anything we're talking about here, you're welcome to call in. And let's talk about this thing, man. Oh, I don't know what happened to Luke there. His screen went out. Hopefully you can hear me. There he goes. But Luke, I think this is a pretty good matchup, man. There's some people that I've been hearing have saying that they don't think it's going to be a good fight because both guys really like to fight at range. But there's a title on the line. I feel like both guys have some things to prove. Oshaki Foster is a guy who took some losses early in his career, but bounced back nicely. Now he's got himself an opportunity to fight for a world title here at Super Featherweight. And as for Ray Vargas, look, he's moving up in weight. He just beat Mark Magsayo in the summer of last year to become the featherweight WBC champion. Now he's moving up to 130 to challenge for a vacant title, Oshaki Foster. And, you and I talked a little bit behind the scenes, and I agree with you, Luke. I think Ray Vargas is a fringe type pound-for-pound fighter right now. If he wins and wins nicely Saturday night, people might have to slide him in there somewhere, but I think it's a good matchup, man. So give me your thoughts on this fight, brother. Hopefully.
Oh,
there we go.
My computer's going crazy. I'm gonna go in and out. Okay, I'm back. Okay, there we go. I mean, I think the big thing I'm looking at is both of these guys are relatively mild-mannered, not known for trash talk. And I read the quotes today from the press conference, both of which the guys were talking trash. Ray Vargas basically saying that he knows Shock is nervous and restless. And Shock basically saying he's going to run Vargas back down to 126. I think people can't underestimate how interesting this fight is going to be, because it seems like both of these fighters have some nerves leading into this fight, because we've never seen them this way. I've been on record saying I like Oshaki Foster in this fight because he's the bigger man. He's been at this weight. And even though Ray Vargas, a lot of the fighters would pick Ray Vargas. He's more technical. He knows how to kind of stink up a fight. I just think the size is going to matter in this fight.
Oh, oh, it makes sense, man. There's a saying that we all know in boxing, that a good big man will always be a good smaller man. And we got two good fighters here, man. Again, Foster has been he's, I guess you could say, the natural 130 pounder, as where Vargas, again, moving up. He's fought as low as I believe bantamweight in his career. So yeah, it's an interesting matchup, man. I feel like both guys really, like I said, they like to fight at range. I think it's an interesting matchup. Oshaki does have a slight height and reach advantage on Vargas. I think both guys, as far as hand and foot speed go, I think they're about the same, in my opinion. Some might disagree. Both guys like to work behind the jab. And what I think is going to come down to is this. I have a feeling that it's not going to be like the most entertaining fight to watch. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are probably going to complain that the fight was boring once the fight's over.
Well, it's two counter punchers, G Funky.
Yeah.
It's two counter punchers. One thing I'd like to inform your audience of, to start January 26th, Oshaki Foster was a plus 260 underdog. He's down to plus 120 right now. And Ray Vargas started the week at minus 370, and he's down to minus 150. So a lot of the late money is coming in on Oshaki Foster.
Yeah, that's a good point. Here's what I think is going to come down to, in my opinion. I feel like both guys, again, there's a lot of things that they're evenly matched on. Now, you hinted on the size, and that's a good point. I agree. But what I think is going to happen here is, I think that if the fight is close and we're coming down the stretch, somebody's going to have to open up and try to take over the fight in the last few rounds. I think it's really going to come down to the championship rounds in this fight. And I just don't know. I'm not confident that Oshaki is going to be able to let the hands go and try to put a stamp on those last championship rounds. I feel like he's just going to be a little more conservative, and want to counter shot and wait for that perfect shot, as where I feel like Vargas would be more willing to let his hands go and punch in combination. And we know judges like that. Judges like activity. So if I was going to put some money, I would definitely put it on Vargas to win. And I am going to pick Vargas to win. I think it's going to be a tough fight, though. Could be one of those hotly debated fights once it's over. But like I said, I just don't know if I'm confident enough in Oshaki to throw the kind of punches and the kind of volume that he might need if this fight is tight down the stretch. And I do think it's going to be tight down the stretch, man. So it's going to be a close fight, but I'm going to favor Ray Vargas to win this one, man. You guys in the chat, go ahead, Luke. I'm going to go ahead and look at the poll, but go ahead and make your point, man.
I think Shock stops him, bro. I don't think it's going to go to that second half. You got two counter punchers. I think Shock is going to really try to jump on him. Ray Vargas has been brought into firefights. He will exchange a little bit much. And I think people are really underestimating how good of a coach Bobby Benton is. Oshaki Foster, I think, upsets Ray Vargas. And I'm pretty confident because Ray has never behaved this way in a pre-fight interview before. And I think he's projecting how he feels onto Oshaki Foster.
All right. Hey, Luke's putting it all out there, baby, saying Shocky gets a stoppage. I like it, man. Let's see. Larry Liston says, I probably got Ray Vargas split decision or majority decision. And right now in the chat, Vargas is dominating with 13 votes. 85% are going with Ray Vargas, 15% with Oshaki Foster. I'm going to leave this up for the remainder of the show, and when we close out, we'll look back at the poll and see where it's at. But right now, Vargas is on top, big in the poll. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting fight, man. We also got real quickly the undercard on is on this card is the return of Mario Barrios, back at 147 pounds, and he's in need of a win here. He's coming off of back-to-back losses, one knockout to Tank Davis, and then a 12-round unanimous decision loss to Keith one-time Thurman. It's been over a year since he's been out of the ring, I believe, or close to it, I should say. I know he fought Thurman in February of last year, but I hope to see Mario Barrios get back on the winning track, man. What do you think, man? Real quickly, Luke.
I mean, this is the guy that fought Broner, right? And we only know that most people feel, including myself, that he beat Broner. And then Gary Anton Russell was just too much for him. I feel like Barrios is probably a different level than him because Barrios has a big pedigree and done that. What this really feels like is this is an opportunity for Mario Barrios to set himself up to possibly fight the winner of Rolly versus Albert Puello, or a Gary Antoine Russell, or one of a number of different fighters in this division. But I think coming off of 2 losses, it's hard to throw a famous fighter in again off 2 losses. So I think this is a great opportunity for Mario to get a win, show his talents, maybe even pick up a stoppage win working with Bob Santos, and then get into a real sexy world title fight.
Well said, man. We have a comment here from Larry Liston. He says, Vargas is one of the slickest Mexican fighters out there. Definitely doesn't fight the typical Mexican style. However, I haven't seen much of Shockey, so I might be wrong. I think it's gonna be a close fight, man. I do. Luke's very confident in Oshaki. And look, man, I can't wait to see it, man. I think it's gonna be an interesting fight, man. And I hope you guys tune in as well to check it out this Saturday night on Showtime, guys. That's Ray Vargas versus Oshaki Foster. Should be a really, really good fight, guys. So we're on to the last topic, and then we'll again, you guys, if you want to call in, the number is pinned in the chat, but I'll even do you another. There we go, right there. Scrolling down at the bottom of the screen if anybody would like to call in. The GOAT Mario P is in the chat. What's up, man? Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it, man. I'm just shooting the breeze here with my man Luke on some boxing topics, and it's always great talking with him and you guys as well in the chat. Now, the latest on this Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis fight, man. Now, I got my issues with the fight, but the latest is that I guess the reason that contracts have not been signed and that this fight is not official is because there's a dispute over a rematch clause. Am I correct, Luke?
Well, I'll say it like this. There's a dispute put out by one side. So there's been Oscar De La Hoya is putting forth that there's a rematch clause that they don't like, that it's only one way. Steven Espinoza of Showtime did an interview with Lazy Lefty of Chicken Talk where he basically said he's never even seen the Golden Boy contract coming back. So what's happening is people are going to the media and sharing bits of the truth, and probably the real truth is in the middle. But basically, we're just getting posturing of different personalities who are business brokers for this deal in the media.
Yeah, man. And look, it's it just gives me a headache, man, when things like this happen. You know, we've been down this road where we've heard, you know, terms have been agreed to, right? And that's what we got, I believe, back in early December, I believe, where the news broke that Ryan and Tank have definitely agreed to terms, and this fight's going to happen in April, and they're both going to get a tune-up. Now, again, things have changed along the way, right? Tank went on to fight Hector Luis Garcia the first weekend of January, stops him. Ryan was supposed to fight the night that Alexis Rocha was headlining the DAZN card, but he says he didn't want a tune-up. So there's another thing that changed right there. But for the fans, man, it's frustrating, because number one, at least for me, I'll say this and I'm only speaking for myself, guys, no one else. I could take or leave this fight, man. I really could. It's really not that big of a fight for me. I know there's a lot of people, I see a lot of people on social media, they're ecstatic about this fight. I'm just not. I'll be quite honest with you, man. What is your level of excitement, Luke, on a scale of 1 to 10, for this fight to happen?
I mean, I'm so jaded in terms of like my excitement level. I get excited when I see other people excited because there's always cards of fights that get me excited with some type of fighter. There's always an undercard attraction that gets me excited. Like this weekend, Ray Vargas versus Oshaki Foster is the one. But I'm sure next weekend, whatever's coming next weekend, I don't know what's there off the top of my head. I'm sure there'll be a fight on that card that'll get me excited. There's always a fight that gets me excited. But I am excited for a week where starting on Tuesday, there's a huge media cycle. There's a lot of coverage. Every single day is an event. Everyone wants to be there. That's what grows our sport. And right now, look, our boxing fans deserve better. We're like a franchise, a sporting league, a sports franchise that has tremendous fans and a terrible organization. Boxing has fans that will put up with the most crap, get a few good fights a year, and stay with the sport. So I'm eager to see some fights made that get the hardcore boxing fan, the person that travels to the events, the person that keeps the sport alive. I'm happy to see some fights that get them excited.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, these guys are, big. They have big followings, social media. Tank has shown that he can pack arenas and different sites, not just in one area. And he's got a nice following social media. We know Ryan Garcia. I think he's got what 9 million followers on Instagram. Like it's crazy the amount of followers this
But
guy's
G
got.
Funky, it's too much power, bro, because it's like a cell phone device for these kids with their following now makes them almost feel like benevolent gods. Because they can just be like, you know what? I'm going to eat Cheetos. But because I'm so influential and so many people think I'm hot or sexy, I'm going to just do it. And what it does is it just weaponizes people that learn how to use social media algorithms to be able to posture into places. And we've seen that guys like Terrence Crawford, guys like Ray Vargas, athletes that aren't as fond of these social media platforms, that don't have a team that goes, what's the SEO? What's the analytics? How do you stay on the trending explore page? They don't get talked about as much as this. Like Ray Vargas is fighting to become a 3-division world champion 1 week after Emmanuel Navarrete just did that. That's 2 Mexican fighters that could potentially be 3-division world champions, and 2 of them could hold belts concurrently in the same division, and they could face each other in a Mexican war. Yet the sport of boxing and the accolades and the accomplishment is secondary to the nonsense.
Yes,
Because we live in a world,
That's exactly what I was about to hint at, Luke. I'm glad you brought that up. Look, man, in my day, and I sound like an old timer, like I'm shaking my fist in here. In my day, all right, this fight, 2 guys who are pretty much unproven, really, right? Ryan has really done nothing in his career to this point. Tank Davis has had a couple of tough matchups in his career. Jose Pedraza, uh, Leo Santa Cruz, but that's really it. There's no world title on the line. It's at a catch weight, right? Which I've been very consistent with this since I've been on YouTube. Not a fan of catch weights. This would be, in my day, this would be a headliner on an HBO Boxing After Dark card. Right, that's what it would be. No belt on the line. Again, 2 guys that haven't done much in their career. It just wouldn't be a big fight back then. Like the competitive aspect of the sport is really going away. And then we hear even guys like Ryan himself have come out and said, "Oh, the belts don't matter." Like, see, I don't like hearing stuff like that. I want to see the guys become a world champion. Like that's what it was all about when I was coming up and when I was competing in sports as a young man. It was all about becoming a world champion. And these guys just don't seem to have that drive anymore. It's just all about, like you said, the fame. They just want to be famous. And that's just, in my opinion, it's awful, man. So if these two guys can't get this fight done and prove themselves against one another, then this is all I got to say to them.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
That's really all I got to say about that, man.
Can
Luke,
I
if you
go on
want to
a
add
rant,
anything,
bro? Can I go on
go
a
ahead.
rant? Because
Go
we're,
ahead.
without saying no names, are we devaluing titles because people don't want to fight mandatories and they don't want to take drug tests? Is that the elephant in the
Ooh.
room that people never bring up?
Could be. Could be, man. Let me read some comments here. You guys have been great in the chat. Don't want to forget about you guys in the chat. Again, if anybody wants to call in and voice their opinion, number is rolling on the bottom of the screen. Larry Listen says, I think your headline for the show really hits a nail on the head. Do we even care anymore? It makes no sense that Tank demands the A side for the rematch, even if Ryan wins. The GOAT here says, interesting whatsoever from the for me about negotiation updates from either side. It's bullshit and meaningless to me until the actual fight is made. Yeah, I'm that kind of fan as well. I understand it's a big monetary fight, but I mean, again, there's no belts on the line, and that's, to me, that's what makes a fight big. Reminds me a lot of Spence Crawford. Seems like a lot of clout chasing with no fight in the horizon. In my opinion, there's a clear negative pattern with PBC and Al Heyman. They don't cross promote. Yeah, it's been. I mean, they've done
But
it
that's up to
before.
us. That's
Yeah,
up to us. Like, okay, they don't cross promote. We won't watch your bad cards.
yeah.
And
I
now
think
you
that's
have to cross promote because a subsection of the consumer goes, well, there's other sports giving us great content. So if you don't give us what we want, we won't give you money.
Yeah, and that's kind of where PBC is at right now, because Showtime is looking like they're getting ready to cut some fat, the unwanted fat that's been going on over there, and boxing might be a part of that unwanted fat. So yeah, they don't have a choice now. They have to start doing these cross promotion fights. Boxman says, I have no faith in Tank versus Ryan. It just has been one of those fights that they just tease, then nothing happens for another year. I mean, yeah, I don't think we're gonna make the April date. I really don't. Mark Nash says Stephen Espinoza didn't deny the rematch clause. Yeah, there's been a lot about that recently. I see Epic says it's an intriguing fight, and the details are factors casuals don't understand, and boxing fans should be interested in the development. It's a good matchup. Well, that's really what it is, in my opinion. It's one of those. That's why I said it would be a main event on like a boxing after dark card 20 plus years ago. Like, these guys are still in that development stage, and for Tank, he's what, 28 now? Like, he should have been
But
past that by now,
but Mr. Funky, anyone we've ever heard of, if they can move a few eyeballs, everything's on pay-per-view. And why is it? Because obviously the ad revenue for boxing is awful. So we can't monetize our sport. We can't monetize our independent platforms. We can't have full-time boxing journalists that create great content without a promoter basically funding them. We are in a world where anything notable is behind a paywall. That is boxing in a nutshell. So though this used to be a fight, like I feel like this fight would be Chad Dawson, Andre Ward, Floyd Mayweather versus Zab Judah. This is an underground or a really high level fight that creates the superstar. We're in an era where superstars are anointed and chosen. They're given careful paths to get the accolades, and then they fight for self-preservation to make as much money as possible. It's a different world than what we're used to, where two fighters would, like another example, Sergio Martinez, Paul Williams. That wouldn't happen nowadays.
No, it would not. And those were two excellent fights, with the rematch ending in one of the most brutal knockouts we've seen in the past 20 years. Mark Nash says, according to Ryan's team, that one rematch wasn't sent, that they agreed to original terms. That's a good point, because I was going to say, I thought that, again, back in December, the terms were agreed to, but then now there's a dispute, Ryan wanted a tune-up, but the guys like Abner Mares were overpriced. Some people are not happy. It may happen too, but people love to watch train wrecks. You're right about that, man. Any fighter who brings up negotiations on social media shouldn't be taken seriously. At least
And
I
that's what
don't
I
take them
kind of feel,
seriously.
Mario P, because it's like, why should anyone trust anyone saying anything when it's a negotiation? Because isn't rule number one of a negotiation to negotiate power in the public perspective, so then you can leverage that back and go, see, you look like the bad guy. Do what I tell you. Like, no one should be listening to anyone because everyone's trying to say something to get what benefits them.
Yep. Larry Liston, people talk more about the gossip, fantasy fights, and contracts than the actual fights. Channels clickbaiting and taking money from eager fans on those issues is also a part of the problem, keeping the illusion alive. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that on YouTube, man. Definitely. Let's see. Oh, okay, he's responding to the GOAT there. Let's see. These youngsters are good with mediocre fights. They like the bullshit talk versus the actual fight. Yeah, a lot more typing than punching from these two guys. That's for sure, man. Let's see. Epic says that's another detail. Tank has 140 WBA regular championship, or it says championship. I don't know if that was misspelled or not, but and he wants to drain Ryan 4 pounds for what? Yeah, I look, I'm not a fan of catchweights, man. I've heard from a source that was at the to go fight that Ryan was several pounds above the weight the day before the weigh-in. So he's having difficulty making 140. So you're gonna make him go down to 136. Like to me, it sucks the competitiveness out of the fight, man. And I'm just not a fan of that, you know? Definitely not a fan of that. Let's see. Ryan has devalued belts, constantly saying that they don't matter. Yeah, that's a ridiculous thing to say, in my opinion. But like Luke said, we're living in a different time, man. We're living in a different world these days. And that kind of stuff gets rewarded now. Because look, two guys that aren't even fighting for a world championship could possibly be the biggest monetary fight in boxing right now. That's a damn shame, in my opinion. Let's see.
I mean,
Ryan is the
here's
A
another
side.
problem, Mr. G Funky, is like, we live in an era where people don't want to go to school. People don't want to go to get an apprenticeship. People want to jump into big money. People want to cheat the system. We got quarterbacks in the NFL that start day one. They don't start in 3 years. So part of the problem is the way the world has changed. People don't want to earn things. These champions don't want to go and prove they're the best. They just want to make money and have hot girls be attracted to them and and monetize their brand. Everyone can't just be a boxer now. They're a business owner. They got this crappy clothing company or something. Okay, I got this thing along with it. And then if you ask them about escrow or any business, like, because this is the thing about boxing business. If you're going to do this weird ghetto boxing business with me, please start talking financial with stocks. Let's talk about where the future is going, what type of technologies will be in self-driving cars, what kind of investments we could make, what are the pillars of financial stability in the future. If you don't want to do that, miss me with this boxing business stuff, because it's basically just a way of saying Rubik's cubes of, if my favorite fighter did this, then my other favorite fighter could do this. And then they're geniuses because they're really rich. And I'm sitting here not rich, but I love them. So then it's stupid, bro. It's stupid.
I agree, man. And you're dropping some gems tonight, man. Woo! Let's give Lukey a hand on that one. Boxing Vital says, unfortunately, PBC has a mass following of fans that are good with these their favorite fighters fighting nobody, as long as they keep getting belts. And
it's not just PBC. It's everyone. Anthony Joshua's fought a whole career of hand-selected guys that are ranked in the top 15 to look good. But when he fought two guys with a pulse, he loses. Ryan Garcia's fought hand-selected guys his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to every promoter, you will find a fighter where their opposition has been carefully selected. It's not just one thing. You can look at PBC and say they have some egregious cases, where you go, wow, Errol Spence and the Charlos fight like once every year. Why?
Right. This. They're making too much of that to be on multiple times, or at least 3 times a year, which is what I think a fighter should definitely do. Inactivity is really one of the worst things for a fighter in their career. But some guys are comfortable with, fighting once a year and getting a nice paycheck for doing it. And most of the time, like Luke said, it's against a hand-picked opponent that we kind of all know what's going to happen, you know? Um, so that's really kind of the
And Larry
thing we
Liston
got.
saying something great in the comment. He said, "Why should I fight a hard 50-50 fight when I can fight 3 B to C plus level guys and earn the same money? That's the exact reason why Bud and Spence isn't made. And Wilder making big money versus Lance, you're 100% right. These big fights deserve big purses. When you're paying big purses to bad fights, why would any rational person ever take a hard 50-50 fight? The point of those big money fights were to incentivize the great fights for the fan. It's defeatist when we give too much money to terrible fights consistently, because then how do we as the consumer ever get a good product?"
Yep. Yeah, and that's what I tell a lot of guys, man, on here. I've been on YouTube for next month is going to be 12 years. Look, I've been doing my thing here on YouTube. I've been through a lot of the wars between the fanboys. I mean, when I first came in, it was the Mayweather and Pacquiao fans were going at it like crazy. But this is not my first rodeo, man, when it comes to these type of issues, with getting bad matchups and demanding fights and pounding their fists against the wall like, we don't like this, we don't like that. I used to do that myself, man. But at the end of the day, we understand that business gets in the way, you know? And to be quite honest with you, man, I know some people don't like when I say that, but I quite frankly, I don't have the energy to shout and scream about not getting matchups anymore when I know that most likely they're not going to happen. We're getting a phone call, guys. Give me 1 second. All right, we got a real treat on right now. Lisa Bells, my big sis. How you doing?
I'm good. I never called before, so I said, well, let me just call. Yeah.
Good to hear your voice. I'm
like
glad you called
everything.
in.
Yeah. I'm glad, you're doing this video tonight and talking about these things. But I digress with your co-host tonight
Mm-hmm.
about the Anthony Joshua thing. I think he's fought really good people. I have. Yes, he's had some losses, but he don't really have a lot of fights. And he has a pretty decent resume to me, so I can't say he fought some people that the other heavyweights haven't fought, other than maybe Fury and Wilder. But I got respect for him for his resume. Plus, he fought his mandatories. You know what I'm saying? So I respect that.
That's a good point.
Well,
Yeah, we all kind of know
he
that
has
when
fought,
we all kind of know that when a promoter sees a fighter and they're like, "Hey, there's potential here to
mm-hmm.
promote this guy, make some money." Yeah, they're gonna build him up with soft touches, at the beginning. Yeah,
Right. But he fought Klitschko at his 17th or 18th, 19th fight.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Even though Klitschko was older, but he fought Povetkin, who was a vet. He don't really have as many fights as, well, I mean, he's still coming up, but the market is different in the UK. See, because they kind of was doing it how they used to do here in the US. So because of being a gold medalist, they really put the machine behind him.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. He's
very marketable.
He's a huge name over in the UK.
Yeah.
Yes, he's huge.
Yeah, but not just the UK. He's huge in other countries too. So.
Yeah, and he could get himself a big fight still with even with the losses that he's taken. This is still a big fight with Fury if that was to ever to happen. And I mean, I would still love to see the Wilder fight. I don't know about you guys in the chat or you, Luke, but that was a hot fight. That was a hot fight like 7 years ago. I would still love to see it, man.
want
Right.
to see
It's
him
just
in with Joe
egos and
Joyce.
stuff like y'all talked about this tonight. It's these egos and promotionals and all of that stuff that's getting in the way of the fights that the fans want to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But I definitely have nothing to say negative about the people that he has fought. There's some losses in there, yeah, but hey, you know, it comes with the territory. But I respect his resume more than I do Wilder's and Fury's. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean
Wilder.
Yeah, to me, Wilder's definitely got some. His resume is not the best. He's gotten a lot of cans, about 30 of them, you know, at least. But his fights with Fury
were. I just wanted to. Yeah.
His fights with Fury were good.
Fury was kind of made them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of it helped them both out. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's still.
But AJ was trying to fight the both of them. You get what I'm saying? So it's like these politics. You talking about a 3-headed monster. Now you got a 4th one in there. Now Usyk came along and just like, okay, I see what y'all doing, so I'm gonna come in and do what I gotta do.
Usyk definitely threw a monkey wrench in the program. That's for sure.
Yeah,
with what
just
he's
like
done.
Andy Ruiz did too. That's what happens with boxing. You know, that's my personal experience with boxing.
Yeah, that's for
sure. You know, but I just wanted to get a guy from, because I know a lot of people been kind of, not saying you're co-host tonight, but been hard on him, but I just wanted to give him his flowers, you know.
I hear you. Yeah, well, hey, you know, it's great to talk to you, Lisa. You know,
great to talk to you too.
I've always tell you you're a great supporter of the channel. You're always sharing my stuff.
I love your channel.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I have to. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Thanks for the call, Lisa. We definitely appreciate it.
I'll be back in the chat. Yeah.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right. Lisa Bell's first time calling in, so let's give her a hand. Right. Yeah, came on to talk a little bit about Anthony Joshua, man. And you know, he's fighting Jermaine Franklin, who you know, I was impressed with what I seen from Franklin in his last fight against Dillian White. You know, I felt like he, you know, was a close fight, man. Couldn't win either way, in my opinion. But it's a decent fight. In a fight that you know, could give AJ some trouble, you know, in his comeback. So yeah, man. Anything else you want to add, Luke, before we wrap this one up, man? It's getting time for me, man. But you can go ahead and add something if you want, man.
I was on my good behavior to not slander Joshua when the guest was on, because I'm not, you know, but I mean, no.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Let's see, read a few more comments here. However, AJ has also had his share of easy opponents. Both Lisa and Lukey have good points on the matter.
Well, I'll just read it. So Dillian White, Charles Martin, Dom Brazil, Eric Molina, Vladimir Klitschko, who lost to Tyson Fury, Carlos Takam, who lost to Irish Mike Perez prior, Joseph Parker, which was a close fight, and that's a really good win. Alexander Povetkin, who was like probably 37 or 38, loses to Andy Ruiz Jr., beats Andy Ruiz Jr., beats Pulev, recently released from Top Rank, and that was one side, 2 losses to Usyk. I mean, it's a solid resume, but it's nothing that, like, the persona and the, like, what he's done for the sport outweighs his accomplishments, in my opinion.
And I think we could say the same for Fury too. Right now, you know, the general population would say he's the #1 heavyweight in the world. And I agree, but his resume is not the best either. You know, I mean, geez, he just fought Chisora 3 times. He just fought him again. He just knocked out Dillian White, which I feel was a easy, kind of a layup for him. And then his fights with Wilder. You know, and again, Wilder, his only big win to that point was Luis Ortiz
and the Stavern.
The first Stavern fight was a good win for him. Yeah, I agree. I actually picked Stavern to beat him that first time. you know, and
I
I'm
mean,
on record. It's still the video's still up on my channel.
it's kind of funny how Joshua and Wilder were looked at as the guys of the era, and Usyk and Fury emerged. And it shows you how much people hate Fury because he basically beat a better version of Klitschko, and people just don't care. Like, he beat a younger, better Klitschko that hadn't lost in like 11 years. And you know,
yeah, no, I made a video immediately following that fight. And for those of you who have been subscribed to me for years now, know that I hated watching Vladimir Klitschko fight. That guy was one of the worst fighters I think I've ever seen in the history of boxing. Not just heavyweight boxing, but the history of boxing. I mean, this guy would just jab and grab, hold all night. It's just not a style that I like. I don't enjoy that. And when I see other fighters doing it, it's really becoming a contagious thing now these days. Look, don't get me
John
started on this, man.
Ruiz, Tony the Tiger, yeah.
Guys would just hold and hold and hold all night, and it just kills the flow of the fight, man. And I am not a fan of it. But this has been a great show, guys. It's 8 p.m. I got to wrap this thing up. Luke, go ahead and plug your channel, your social medias, anything that you want, and any last thoughts before we wrap it up, bro.
Only thing is onlyfans.com/ITR boxing. We got exclusive videos coming there, and they're showing the kid love. So if you want to follow me, go to the OnlyFans. You make a free account. We don't charge anyone, and we got exclusive content on there. It'd be absolutely great if 1 or 2 people joined.
Yes, and people are saying right now Vladimir Klitschko was a sleeping pill. You must really dislike Haney. Yeah, Haney's last 2 fights were 2 of the worst fights I've seen in quite some time with all the holding he was doing. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of it, and that's for any fighter that does it. It's not just Haney, right? It's a lot of fighters that are doing it these days. But yeah, guys, check out my guy Luke. He does, like I say, does great work on his channel. And I appreciate the time, Luke. I really do, man. It's always fun talking with you, man. And again, we can meet up again in person, man, at one of these fights here in California this year, man. It was fun watching the fights with you, the Thompson card that we saw back in November. And again, Thompson tomorrow night, guys, 8 p.m. Pacific time. So subscribe to their channel. Free boxing on Friday night, man.
And I'm in public places every day. So if you guys see me, come up and talk to me or whatever. You know, I'm in public places everywhere. I'm definitely not scary. So
that's right, man. So again, guys, if you're new to my channel, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you know anytime I go live or drop a video. Any of my social medias and any of that good stuff down here. And yeah, that's it, guys. Appreciate all of you guys for being here tonight. This has been great. And enjoy the fights tomorrow night. Again, I hope to see you guys at the Thompson in the chat. I will be there. I hope to see you guys there. And again, Saturday night, we got the Showtime card coming at you, man. So good weekend of boxing coming up, guys. Yes, I will see you there at Boxing Vitals. Appreciate it, man. Yes, and I agree with you, Lisa. That was one of the worst fights I have ever seen in boxing history. I appreciate you, Tycho TV. Thanks a lot, man. But guys, I got to run. See you guys on the next one. I'm out of here.